matter, broadcasting to you between the raging fire of a very depleted offender. And while I'm dealing with a lot of psychic attack and crazy dumb fuckery from the person who was supposed to help me heal and recover, uh, life goes on. And I am doing December astrology. So the first thing when Pluto ingressed to Aquarius, I said for the state of Israel, that would be the fifth house. And indeed, and with Saturn in Pisces, that could be health related. And we have an update about a story where two fetus were replaced, and the judge now decides that the genetical parents will have the child. So that's kind of children-related health situation, big discussion in Israel. So I guess we will hear more about children, child swapping, DNA stuff. I don't know what happened with the other fetus, so I don't remember that. But that's kind of an ongoing story. I know swap children was also an issue in the Netherlands. Netherlands has, if we take the 1800 chart, that would be Cancer ascendant, and Aquarius would be the eighth house. So Pluto ingress into the eighth house for Netherlands. Probably a lot of, hidden wealth discussion, debt, occultism, maybe some progress with satanic ritual abuse. And in the meantime, let's just take a look at December astrology. So, first of all, the chart for now. And this is, ascendant is approaching Uranus. It is Saturn hour. Usually we don't prefer Saturn hour for elections, but Saturn in the 11th house, and the ascendant is close to Uranus. Moon 19 degrees Virgo, so releasing from opposition to Saturn. It has been a night, I have to admit. And releasing from a trine to Venus. The moon is now applying to trine Uranus, which I'm very happy. I love the good aspects between the stuff and Uranus. I definitely need one. After the square, I definitely need one. Mercury is still on the 22nd degree of Sag. Jupiter is still on the 18th degree of Gemini. So that's still on. And let's take a look at December. So Scarlet Beta Persei and the sky god Uranus would be appropriate to accompany us to December and shield us from malefic psychologists, cultists, and other people that are supposed to help you recover, or anybody that you need to recover from. Okay, so I'll just bless you as well, my viewers. First of all, we start off with the new moon in Sagittarius. And this would be 9 degrees Sagittarius. So we have a new moon on Antares, which is a big event. Antares is the Valhalla planet. Antares is very protective, and that depends on how you work with that. It is very protective. It can also be a combat. Okay, so it's about being victorious. Both Aldebaran and Antares are about being victorious. You have to pay attention that, you have to pay attention when people say pick your battles. They usually mean tend to what you can and let go of the rest. But we are now at the time in history where we have to pick the biggest battle. Let's put it very simply. We have to pick the biggest battle. And so Antares can assist with that. Now, that can be literally anywhere in your chart, okay? So you have to think about your natal chart. Where is Antares, what it represents. For me, it's the 10th house of reputation, career, social status, image, okay, and stuff like that. For you, it may be another house. And you have to remember that being victorious, let's just say it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, if it's not a Pyrrhus win, you are usually being victorious over the dark forces, okay? So that can be even about something within the self. Jupiter is going to go into the 17th degree at the time, so it's not going to be on the malefic 18th degree, which I like. It means that this victory can genuinely be something, and because Jupiter is in Mercury sign, it can be a small, big victory, okay? Mercury is going to already be retrograde in 20 degree Sagittarius, so you can think about it as a small, big win, a small win that make a giant difference, or a big win that makes a small difference, but you're very happy that it happened. The opposition with Jupiter and Mercury retrograde is giving us an understanding that with this lunation, there's going to be some sort of a repetition. Okay, we're going to have to go over that. We're going to have to refine things. We're going to have to address things. We're going to have to correct things. That it can be the case that something that went missing will be found. There is a square to Saturn with this new moon. So Aldebaran square Saturn, first of all, it means that it's not a talismanic new moon. You wouldn't do a talisman on Aldebaran, on Antares. But it also means that there's a certain constriction, okay? I can give you, without names, example, somebody used that to maintain the credit for their ideas and had a business and so on. And they had, and Saturn rules the skin color. And it was, I was using also the same election, but they were using the Aldebaran. So they were victorious in getting the point across, but they had a mishap where they were referring to the skin tone of people, okay? And were actually being prejudiced about something that was kind of like a, like something that Saturn can do. It's like you managed to get your point across, but you came out, you created antagonism in that level. So again, be mindful because your win might create needless antagonism. This is general with Antares and Aldebaran, but because of the square to Saturn, and that can be skin tone, that can be something to do with lineage, that can be like you just want to, and that might be what you will need to revise, okay? When Mercury goes direct later, you might need to, it's like, oh, I need to correct that. I wanted to get my message across. I had this big win or big small win, and in the rage of it, I have said things that maybe I need to change my phrasing. And it's very likely to be something like that. But all in all, what I noticed with the square to Saturn, it doesn't take away from your win. It's just like you may have created needless antagonism that people will take a while to get over. But still, like you can utilize it to a place that is constructive. So this is a new beginning, and in any new moon in Jupiter denotes of a little bit bigger, okay, some bigger expansion. What you're starting now is going to be big, okay? And that the big does not mean good or bad, it just means big. And so that means that you might, like, because of the challenging aspects that you're starting something, and the ruler of the new moon, the ruler of the ruler is retrograde, and there's a square to Saturn, that might mean that you're starting big drama. Okay? I kind of think of when I wrote Sugar Free Lemonade, and that was a big dispute. Like everybody was It was the best thing for me to do, but it stirred up a lot of dumbfuckery. Okay, so you might be starting a satire, you might be finding a new form of expression, you might be starting another channel. Okay, and so it's not the best election to start something new, but it's a new beginning. That's what the moon says. Okay, it's like it says so. Something's going to start, and it's going to be satirical, it's going to be funny. You need to be able, all of the parties will need to be able to be laughing at themselves for a little or a lot. And there's going to be humor involved, but it may offend some people. Okay, so I think about when I was recording "Get Your Rape Culture Off My Lawn," and it was a rap song because I grew up on rap, and I didn't mean like to a certain culture of like certain people. I meant it like rape culture in general. And then I found like somebody telepathically tries to argue to me. It's like, hey, that's kind of like cultural appropriation. I'm like, no, fuck no. Without losing a beat, like, no, I grew up on this culture because that's the music I was listening to. So you could have something like that. And with Saturn, you're very likely to, okay? If you're dealing with, beware of diseases related stuff, okay? Um, I was just laughing today that while I am the person talking about housing first and revivifying the view of people both on sex espionage and sex work and MK Ultra related stuff and what people call schizophrenia and so on. And then I was like, I cannot help it, but my psychologist is a bit of a total psycho. Okay, and that was a moment. Okay, that was a moment that I was having with myself. And of course, when you have such things coming up, you might need to revise, you might need to rephrase, but such a thing can absolutely happen. Or, I'm half Dutch in Netherlands, in European cultures in general, but people tend to speak with diseases a lot. Okay, for example, even the symbol clown in Netherlands means clone as well. So people are not blamed that they were born as clones, but like nobody gives a flying fuck. It's like you're a clone, okay? And that can be for when you do it, or if you're coming from such culture and you put it across and you put it for for people to see it as also outside of your culture, because Jupiter is expansive, okay? That might come across you know, that might come across different. I had a moment when I was talking about Tachi and Delano in the freeze case, and I was like, well, when does the Polish guy go with the Moroccan guy? And I wasn't paying attention, but actually, one of the people that were offenders in academia was Polish guy, and the makler, the real estate person that had a problem was Moroccan. And, so, and that was a moment, okay? So it's great for all people to be able to laugh at themselves, but it's still the square with Saturn is like, how should I say it? Let's say somebody would want to support me, and they would talk about a person and call them mentally ill or totally crazy or totally this, and that would be like, I am just trying to like, one giant contribution I have with the sciences in spirit of matter is that those taggings are actually not correct. Okay, but somebody would want to like support me and say, yes, that person is completely crazy, they need to electrocute them, they need to like, no, 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 that's what I'm trying to abolish. Okay, so I expect a lot of this with this new moon. Great for satire, great for artistic expression, great for the type of satire that is like a Monty Python, religious satire. That's yes. What more can I say about? Well, Mars is still in regal degree Leo, and it's just it's December 1, okay? So it's just the 1st of December, a couple of days before Mars goes retrograde, which is 4th December. And Mars is still it's a releasing trine with Mars. So you might get very creative. what I love, if you're a day chart, this is more problematic for you with Mars. But if you're a night chart, you might get very creative, and you might have a creative release. So you're with Mars, but that Saturn, okay, you're gonna have to accommodate for that Saturn. Let's put it that way. And you're probably going to do that through humor, through the cunning property of Mercury. Um, and again, the point is to diminish, to release from the conflict of Mars and Pluto, because Mars is releasing from the opposition, which would mean that before it's going retrograde, this new moon is still on the note of Mars kind of beginning to close a cycle with Pluto. Okay, it will go back, yes, but the new moon point is where we're beginning to release a conflict. And so all parts, all the people that climb on all the trees are beginning in the beginning of the month, and that's going to take us towards the Mars retrograde, which is good. We need that. People begin to understand that everybody is going to have to come down from the tree they climbed on. Okay, if I take a look at my life, people that perhaps they didn't even understand. Maybe they thought they were not successful, and they was like, no, I ended up in a situation with no housing, no this, no that, psychic attacks over here, over there. And then, what do you want me to become? Adolf Hitler? you know? Like that's what the funding adds. Is like, who will fund me for what? Maybe some forest, you try to interfere in that too. So the only thing that they would fund is a Holocaust. Okay? Cost effective. But the thing is, okay, you see the spirit of the vibe of the thing, okay? And so everybody has just like, oh my God, we really got that person to go all that far. And everybody is like, oh, we really got that person to go all that far with that. And I think that everybody around the conflict begin to understand that, hey, we might want to climb down from the tree we climbed on. And while Mars will go back to the opposition, okay, so it will reclimb the tree. The point of this new moon has Mars releasing from that giant confrontation, okay, and that is something to remember, because we need that release. All in all, we want to move to a place where everybody housed, everybody making money, everybody making soil, everybody making love, okay, everybody good, okay, and that's where we want to move to, okay, so that's something to remember, and any lunation in Sagittarius is exactly on that vibe, okay? Grow forests, not hatred, make love, not war crimes, and so on. And that is pretty much the vibe that everybody, give people freedom, okay? This is pretty much the vibe that we want to end this, and it will be, okay? Because on April, Uranus is going to go direct on Beta Persei, which is like the final go, okay? Everybody that's been building on slavery, that hasn't arranged their investments, their energy, their worldview, their mindset, their blood flow, okay? Anybody's been building structures on people being enslaved and oppressed has to, like, that's where it has to go, okay? This is the spirit of the times, okay? Okay, because Mars opposition Pluto is like, it's giving guillotine, right? So this is where all the tyrannical people really have to come to their senses, because otherwise they will lose their head, both with this Algol thingy and with this Mars Pluto thingy. The plutocrats, whether it is the people that made the image of a revolution but not essentially contributing. And with Venus, it's about art. It's about, what happened when Uranus was last here. A homeless artist that could not be an officer created a horror movie for entire world. and put the Masons in ghettos, okay? The Masons are the ones that want to enslave humanity. He put them in ghettos and concentration camps. Now, before you're like, hey, Hitler, no. Okay? That's not how it was. He also put a lot of people innocent to be killed in horrid ways. But that is don't fuck with don't fuck with the hungry homeless artist. Okay, that's not the time to mess with women. That's not the time to try. It's not the time to try to enslave people. Like you try to put Hitler in the working camps, like they do for the mentally ill people. And just today, by the way, Israel, I saw that even the government is beginning to understand that people who are dealing with mental crisis cannot work forever in this basically working camp. That their rights are deprived from them, and in order to have housing, they need to be working in this working camp. And it's like, well, it can't go on forever. It degrades them and so on. It's like, good morning, Israel. But people understand that if you're building on slavery, it's not going to yield. Not at this time, not even if you're Mason, okay? So let's not get Hitler-like, but just to keep that in mind. And I think that with that notion and with the understanding that, hey, like we're not supposed to fight each other to the death, then I think that is, and this is the spirit of Sagittarius. It's like, hey folks, what you've been doing to one another is completely absurd. Probably all of you want freedom of some sort, just to make sure that like your freedom is not raping others and you'll be okay. Like, where's the problem? Why can't we all just get along? Okay, we need that vibe. And while the Sag is trying to say that, it will have a racist joke, a sexist joke, and a joke about the disabled and crazy. So it's going to be very messy, very funny. But we really don't need to have heads flying. It's like, just stop harassing people, stealing dildos and whatnot. Okay, and you're pretty good. Like, just don't mess with anybody's energy. Okay, and you're pretty good. Now, that's the new moon. Venus is applying to conjoin Pluto and trine Uranus, which means she's sextile Neptune as well. She's in Capricorn. What I like about this, first of all, it's the time of the year when Venus gets informed. Okay? And she gets informed while she's liberated with this Uranus. So there's going to be a very practical liberation. Liberation from taxation. Exposing tax frauds of the people that we actually need to take down. Okay, there's a tax fraud and there's a tax fraud, okay? The people that try to get you to pay your taxes are more often than not, if you actually get to the actual people, are the ones that go in the same lodge, sacrifice children, steal dildos, and masturbate on them to try to deplete sexual energy in order to give it to the snake goddess to get something that they would anyway be getting had they not been doing that. So that being said, Venus is applying to conjunct Pluto, okay? It's deep. She is transformed there. There is giant power that she meets very closely. And so this is kind of like coming face to face with what the actual hidden science implies, what the actual experiments in children, what the actual fuck is happening. And it's going to be medical related because Saturn is in Pisces. Okay? And medical is also drugs. So all you drug lords, you're not exempt. If you've been hurting women, if you've been hurting children, saying you have a gentleman code, this will be exposed, and it's going to be a Venus that's going to know about that. And that Venus is in herself Saturnian, so it can be a female psychiatrist is exposed to the dumb fuckery of, I really don't know how female psychiatrists could not expose to that. Like every time you see, like you shouldn't be compliant with the olanzapine, Zyprexa, groundbreaking researches every year for the last decade and a half. Okay? Exocult bankers in the house. Okay? Investments Freuds in the house. Freud's. Freud was also fraud a lot in many ways. Oh my god. Saturn is also liquid assets. Okay, so if your assets are built on this groundbreaking olanzapine, the Frexa thingy that they give to children to drug them, rape them, and electrocute them for MK Ultra, and then dispute them because they're crazy. Don't expect your mortgage to pay itself, okay? Invoke the second, but don't expect, like, unless you tend to that, don't expect your mortgage to pay itself. But there is still this Uranian, okay, this Uran Taurus. So there's a Eureka solution to that. And there is still the protection of the bisextile with Neptune. So there is the gift of grace. It's like repent now, and that can be corrected. Reallocate. You might find an actually good investment. Okay. For example, when I thought, what will I do with my life? What will I do with my life? I found the half moons, and I began. Everybody around me now knows about the half moons. You either love the half moons or you stay away from me. It's kind of like aromatherapy and astrology. Okay, you either love that, you either tolerate that, or you stay away from me. Imagine when somebody tried, or that psychologist tried to make me give up astrology. Okay? It's not good for anybody's health. Like, you don't want me not digging half moons in the soil. Gotta have soil. You don't want me not digging half moons in the soil. It's a 22 Mars there. That's one lethal Mars. Okay? You don't want me around my moon days not digging the half moons in the soil before my moon days. Okay? Something to be noted. You don't want me not doing astrology. You don't want me not doing astrology. I'm going to say, you don't want me being censored from mentioning the toxins in the military operation. That's crimes against humanity, punishable by that. I really need to dig like 10 half moons just when I tend to that. And you don't want me dealing with astral sexual assaults by anyone. Okay? Name the dictator. They were kinder. Okay? Those are like simplicities. And Taurus loves simplicities. It's like, hey, well, I can dig up half moons in the soil. I can do some aromatherapy. I can have, create a salve. I can do astrology. But I gotta be able to do these things. Okay? But here there can be an understanding with this Venus-Pluto in the background that those things need to happen, okay? Because Neptune is ruled by this Jupiter. And there's going to be the understanding that, hey, those things need to happen, or we're just breeding the new, I don't know what dictatorship, like, it's not even dictatorship, it's like those things need to be happening if we want peace. And this is about the time where everybody's going to want peace, because Mars is stationing to go retrograde. And Mars retrograde is a little bit of depleted Mars. Okay? It's gathering forces. Now, you know, if you've been abusing power, that the final go of Mars direct, you know, if you have been oppressing someone, if you've been abusing power, the final go of Mars direct, you know, when people have this adrenaline shot that they can lift a truck, okay, then you just want to make sure you be using that Mars correctly. If you know you have wronged, that would be the time to climb off that tree, build half moon in the soil, move some rocks, cut some wood, build a cabin in the woods, and by all means refrain from keeping to abuse your power, because you will lose your head. It's Pluto Aquarius. It's Pluto Aquarius with the Second World War. Okay, it's that thing of a thinginess. That war after which women could have their own bank account, and that time in history after which even the Vatican had to tone down. Okay? To smash the Inquisition, you start with Vatican. So you don't want to play it on the guillotine, right? That's just this vibe of this, just the beginning of the month. Is it heavyweight? Well, yes and no, because Uranus gives light to that Venus. There is depth, but there is kind of like the humor. It's not at the bottom of the well, but it's kind of like the deep humor that's coming out of a dark pit situation, okay? So if I think about dealing with horrid sexual assaults from astral and not knowing where to go, and then it's like my crystal dildo, my glass dildo was stolen by my psychologist. Oh my God, it's like, if before that I needed to get that CIA technology, now we got evidence. You brought evidence to the court of law. Even in the traditional court of law, you brought evidence. Okay? And then it's like, well, the therapist with the dildo, okay? So that it's that kind of humor. It's still heavy, it's still horror, it's still torture that no one has to go through, but it's also like completely hilarious at the same time. So in terms of the energies, we talk about starting something new. Mars is stationing to go retrograde. You're not gonna be at the top of your lungs. You're not gonna have top energy. Everybody's so exhausted. And really, everybody's so exhausted. Everybody's tired of being tired. And that is just the beginning of the month. Now we go to, there is a Mercury Cazimi on December 6th, but before that, let's go to the Mars retrograde. December 7. So yes, I thought it was December 4, but December 7. December 7, Mars is going retrograde, and it's doing it on degree 6 of Leo, while Venus is conjuncting Pluto. So we're going to have a Mars opposing Pluto and opposing Venus, or coming retrograde to reoppose Pluto, while Venus is applying to oppose Venus now. And Venus on an honoretic degree of Capricorn, but Pluto 0 degree Aquarius is a out of sign conjunction. So I think this is where we will be outing the women that cooperated with the plutocracy. So you think about the women that gave hand to sex trafficking, to sex espionage, not the sex espionagers themselves, but those who trafficked them, to tax frauds, bank frauds that were targeting both men and women. This is where those things will be exposed. So this is right now, I think it's less worry for the men. If I talked about, hey, if you're a woman psychiatrist, let's say, because Saturn still Pisces, okay? If you're a woman psychiatrist and you're like, where have you been with open dialogue and housing first? Where have you been when olanzapine made research after research that is the same research, and people invest in that company, and lost lawsuit after lawsuit, class lawsuit after class lawsuit for lethal effects in patients? Where the fuck were you, Miss ta 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 ta? Okay? And so with this, I think this is more for the female psychiatrists, female plutocracy, female bankers. It's like the women. So it's like, hey, where were you, the women? Think about after 7th October, there was that, hey, where are all the international organizations in favor of women when there is ritual sacrifice going on? And I think a good move by those international people would be to hey, let's tend to that, and let's expose the inner traitors from Wagner Fund. But of course, those would be with the same Masonic cult that those women are a part of. Talk about the women that were pro-rape. It's not a good time to be a pro-rape woman when that thing, is beginning to unfold. And so, but again, Saturn is in Pisces, so this would be an excellent time for all these women to climb down from the tree and begin to repent. I want to see the booming of believe in the patient. Schizophrenia is healed by believing the patient, believe in the testimonial, housing first. I want to see the booming of, yes, women that went out of sex espionage grow crops, and that helps them when it's their soil. I want to see the booming of that. Agriculture, Saturn for healing. Those are the corrective steps, okay? I need to be seeing the booming of that. Like, hey, we went a little bit too far with exploitation here. Let's begin to come down from the tree and begin to repent. And I don't mean that religiously. I mean that very practically. It's a very practical Venus. So let's begin to think about compensation for anybody that was ever administered any beta blocker or SSRI. Let's begin to calm down from that tree of exploitation before you get the investors coming in and wondering what's going on. I've been investing in this pharma company, that pharma company. By the way, I found the family name Yaron of Gior Yaron with a company called Itamar Medical. And I don't know if that's connected to Itamar Yaron or not, but if it is, there's a complete conflict of interests. I don't know if it's connected, okay? But this is where investors should be starting to ask questions. If you're invested in big pharma, now would be the time to begin to search. And you could be invested through Boli Colis, you could be invested through 401ks, life insurances, any kind of pension arrangement that you have. For the Hebrew speakers, Keren Ishtalmut, Gimlaot, whatever, okay? All of that, where you put your money somewhere and you don't know what it does, okay? I also have to be checking the 2 cents that okay, this is the time to pick up the phone. What companies does that go to? I want a list of everything and begin to be aware and be ready, because that's your house, that's your lawn, that's your car, that's the children's degree, that's your medical insurance, that's your medicine, that's your retirement, that's your retirement home, that's your retirement health care, that's your mental health care, that's your physical health care, because those dumb fuckeries are administered if you have cancer and if you have a heart attack. That is everything you need funding for in life. That's your trip, that's your vacation, that's your pregnancy planning, okay? Just get that straight, understand the frauds, both in real estate, anything, that's going to be lasered, and is going to be lasered if you don't tend to that. That would be the time, before we get 29 all over it, that would be the time to pick up the phone, make the arrangement. I don't care how safe it looked. Pfizer looked very safe before, okay? Teva Pharmaceuticals looked very safe until, and I'm not and this is knowledge from experience of how do these markets work. It's not an investor advice, it's a human advice where you allocate your energy. And it's both the fact that, hey, that would be your medicine, and the fact that in terms of your investments, where your money's going, where you're reliant on your money making money, or your money standing the test of inflation or currency change, this is where they're gonna get you. And that time there would be even worldly interests to get you, because just like they knock off the drug cartel to make place for a WHO, that is so they can do that to Teva Pharmaceuticals, which they do, and they can do that to your real estate. They can do that to anything. And the reset folks have their own reset. You gotta have your own reset, okay? It's gonna look like justice, but not everything that looks like justice is justice. Everybody likes to see a big bank falls, especially when it evacuated them from an apartment or something, because loan, because crisis, because fraud. But nobody likes to be seen a global currency rises that eliminates your ability to trade because somebody said that you said something. And so this Mars retrograde beginning December 7. Before that, the day before that, we have a Mercury. I don't know if it is Cazimi or combustion, and you have to check this. This is where I go to Crassia Tassio and to Trifon. Those are the guys that observe it in the sky, because there can be no difference. There can be conjunction and it's combustion, okay? So Mercury is being updated by the sun. If it is combustion, it's going to be more malefic nature. If it is Cazimi, it's going to have a benefic nature. Well, Mercury is getting an update. And so this Mercury retrograde, we're going to have a new perspective on communication, trade, paperwork, contracts, children and religion, more information about expandable children, more things coming up. And that is happening opposing Jupiter and in a T-square with Saturn. So even if it is a Cazimi, it's a Cazimi that is, it's a Cazimi with a loaded gun. Let's put it that way. Okay? Because the sun is ruling over that Mars that is about to go retrograde for the next day. So Kazim is usually a shift of perspective, but there's a shift of perspective that is kind of like, oh, I see it in a new light now, and now that I see that, oh my God. Okay? What is this, oh my God? I don't know. For example, when I had finally the courage to check for what were other cases for this psychologist, then I saw other case where a mother of 6 was scrutinized by him and a female psychologist. So again, but we talked about the women, and that was like, okay, fine. And then I look up and I see this. I look up the name, so we remove this picture, of course, and I see a company named Itamar Medical, which is probably not related, but then I see one of the founders is named Giora Yaron, and the name is Itamar Yaron. And I'm like, what? So you might have that's like, oh, it's a whole new perspective that could be taking down both that psychologist, the welfare, the hospitals, and another pharma company, which I didn't even know exists. Like that could be taking down a pharma company, okay? It's like, oh, damn. Okay? And again, it stems from the moon is, oh, I said what I said. The moon is going to be with Deneb Algedi. So that's what it says. And that can be, just from, if you think about that case, it was just from that psychologist. Let's throw another magic with that dildo and getting it backfire and me searching for more things to expose about the case, running into this Itamar Medical by Giora Yaron, and then it's like, what's that thing? Is it conflict of interest? Now you get a pharma company that could be family with this person going, have we gone bankrupt because you were masturbating on your patient again? Could you not masturbate to yourself? Why do you have to take her energy? Okay, so you see, it was like one mistake became giant mistake, and then you see things in a new light, and then there's a pharma company. It's like, oh damn, we're literally named after you. Okay, and now there's a giant conflict because now it's a big pharma company that's traded that's traded, okay? Maybe not. I didn't say nothing, I just wanted to have sexual sovereignty here, okay? So we're gonna have a lot of these. And they're going to be related to drugs, to medicine, to big pharma, to investment, to liquid assets, and that's in a T-square with that Jupiter Mercury, and Mercury getting an update. Oh, that piece of information was missing. What's that piece of information? Well, do you know that your psychologist is, let's say, the son of a person who is owning a pharma on his name? And well, isn't that psychologist the one who gives diagnosis for which people would later get pills or medicine? Yes. How has that gone under the, it hasn't gone under the radar, but now that you've activated that, that's a giant issue. It's not a small issue. It's a giant issue, and it's not just the Masons, it's also Big Pharma. And that pharma is traded in, yeah. So me keeping sexual sovereignty not only prevented for a while the assassination of Peter de Vries, but also taking down a big pharma company that's associated with a malefic psychologist. You're doing it way big. I'm not doing anything. I just try to have my yes, no, and maybe respected also in energy. That willing consent thingy, it's about to go bankrupt for those who plan on molesting people. Oh, God. So this is what we're going to have. We're going to have Mars going retrograde, but before that, Mercury gets an update with the Sun and a shift of perspective. There was that piece of missing information, and that missing information is happening in the context of now that I see things, and you know, with Kazemi, it's always something benefic if it is Kazemi. So it's like, oh, now that I see that, it's, oh my God, that pharma company. Okay? So you're gonna have kind of like a small thing of like, oh, now that I finally see that, okay? You think about that psychologist going, oh, she only meant for me like to stop sexually harassing her. Yes! Oh, that's lovely. Oh my God, we got a conflict of interest lawsuit going on in the meantime. Well, while you were masturbating, trying to invade her energy, and she had to protect herself, that shit got exposed. Okay? And with Moon Deneb Algedi is giving housing first. Moon Deneb Algedi is giving nourishment. Moon Deneb Algedi is giving food. And there is a square to Uranus that's still retrograde. And the thing about the moon here, it is sextiling Aries. You don't see it here. It looks like the moon is getting no support. This is a fraud. The moon is getting support from Aries. Who is Aries? Goddess of cows. Okay? So there's going to be some equity involved. There's going to be some wealth redistribution. And Saturn is still in Pisces. It's still big pharma. It's still drug stuff. It's still both healing and shamanism, and even astrology, by the way, and drugs and psychiatry and filmmaking. Okay, it's still what it is. And the investments associated, we're going to have a giant bubble pop, because we have, this is a given, a giant bubble pop, because Saturn is in Pisces and the moon is squaring Uranus. So prepare your nervous system, prepare your lavenders and your rosewoods. You're going to need it. But also, this is a bubble pop, housing bubble pop. Especially if you've been invested in kind of like Section 8 or housing that is like, you know, like houses where people are supposed to have like hospitals or hospice or
kind of like those houses where people are forced to live with and forced to have a working camp, otherwise they're thrown in the street and their money's taken from them. Um, expect a bubble pop. Okay, so it's a medical bubble pop, and it's going to be in a good relation with Aries in Aries, but it's not going to be in a good relation with Uranus. Okay, so that that is usually when I think about Beta Persei and then of Algedy squaring, which is what we see here. Beta Persei is a lot about recovering from situations of injustice to do with rape and psychic attack and so on. And then Algedy is just like, let's have food for everyone, let's have housing for everyone, let's have equity for everyone. So the places where they could collide is if then Algedy is like, hey, let's make sure you're housed, you're this, you're that, but please don't talk about the event, which she cannot do. Okay? So there's a crisis here, where both will have to accommodate, but it's supportive of that which is marginalized. Okay, Aquarius is more science oriented, Taurus is more senses oriented. So there is a crisis between the science and the senses. Um, but still the marginalized is supported. So you want to think of, for example, if you can't express yourself so well, I would go for an intellectual thing like neurodivergence, talking about the science of related to, let's say, sexual abuse. Okay, so it's hurting your communication, it's affecting cognition in a certain way, and so on. And you need the environment. So, but this is a good. It's still good for housing first for the marginalized. Okay, what is the marginalized is that which has been cast out of. So if for everyone right now it's in Aries, okay, where you have been cast out of society because of, let's say, sexual boundary violation that you went through, this is where I would focus on, hey, that got me to be casted out of society, to not be able to, let's say, run a business, to not be able to have good housing. Okay, that's the argument, more so than, hey, I've been through this, I've been through that, because then it's going to be like trauma comparing, which is not the place we want to go. It's like, hey, I've been excluded here, I've been cast out here, I've been this, I've been that, and then the moon can remediate for that. It's like, hey, you will get housing, hey, you will get food, hey, you will get support for your nervous system. And and that is also benefic for veterans who've been trying to get like recovery. We still have to remember that Mars is applying to, yes, opposed Venus and Pluto. So there's a lot of conflict and constriction, but there's also the remediation of the moon. Okay, everybody, because it's such a bubble pop, everybody's going to be conflicted about it. Okay, you think about the situation where, oh, there's a bank crisis and so on. It's like, oh, that bank was corrupt, that bank, and then there is like a digital currency going on. So that is, or social credit score is enacted. Okay, so that's the bubble pop and the conflict around that. It's going to be challenging to choose your battle here because you kind of don't know where to go. Okay, you have a conflict between Venus and Mars, but essentially your problem stemmed from something that represses Venus. It represses your voice, represses your senses. Okay, and so that's something to remember. And that's, it's good to remember that that's why you were marginalized. even if you come from like Masons, okay, or clone cults or incest cults, okay. The issue was that as an infant you were raped and tortured, and as a child you went through satanic ritual abuse that caused the situation that you're marginalized. But it's still, even knowing that, it's still going to be challenging of which road to go, okay. um so this is, for example, when you think about safety houses, so the separation between perpetrator and victim, but then the perpetrator was also a victim. So that in terms of the structure, where is the care for everybody, who lives in what neighborhood, that kind of stuff. So we don't want to neglect the fact that the perpetrator was also a victim, but hey, we don't want to put the victim next to the perpetrator. By the way, the street where that Itamar works is called Yad Vashem, which is on the name of a Holocaust museum. Just saying. And when I skipped my previous housing situation, I had to stay for a month with a friend that lived in that street. So that it's one of those things, okay? Now let's continue on to this December. Oh, Venus ingresses to Aquarius when Mars goes retrograde. Let's see, when do we get to the opposition of... Yeah, I don't think we get to the opposition of Mars and Pluto this month, which is a grand relief. We don't want to be. Yeah. Another interesting... No, let's talk about the full moon in Gemini. So full moon in Gemini, 23-degree Gemini, closer to my midheaven. Full moon in Gemini, we got Jupiter Gemini retrograde, we got Mercury 6 degrees Sag, so this is Mercury already direct. I will need to see when does Mercury turn direct, but Mercury already direct, 6 degrees Sag, so approaching again Antares, but it's not in good proximity. It's still leverage. That Mercury is in good position. It's in detriment, but it has support from Venus in Aquarius, which is very equitable. She's not charitable as much as she's just this relaxed Venus. Okay, that Venus that is doesn't have the requirements of like Venus in Capricorn, where everything has to be elegant, well put together, and so on. It's that Venus that is a bit more relaxed, but she's still Saturnian. She's not particularly sensual. It's an air sign. She's more sapiosexual, and that full moon is remediating the Mars-Pluto opposition and the Mars-Venus opposition. So basically we're going to be exposed to new information that's remediating the conflict. Okay? What can that information be? Because Jupiter is also in Gemini. And it has to do with both your Sagittarius and your Gemini houses. And of course the axis, okay, with Aquarius and Leo. So you want to think about, science disputes and applied science. I'll give you a conversation. My entire thesis proposal was inspired by a conversation I had with my instructor, which fortunately did not sexually harass me or anything like that. And he was an MD, and I was doing thesis in politics and governance about history, history of sciences, of scientific revolutions, and I wanted study case
and I was going Feyerabend. So Feyerabend is a way more flexible. Like I made an episode about Feyerabend way back in the days. You can look for that. And my instructor, who was applied science, okay, not just like physics and cows and all that, but was an MD. He said, as a medical, as a medical person, when I treat a patient, I read Feyerabend, I don't know what to do. Okay, it's 2024. My answer is still, well, believe the patient, listen to the patient. They probably got a very good and sound intuition about their body. Encourage that intuition about their body and work together, because you have no idea how to treat your patient, and this is way more of an art than a science, and will forever be. Okay. And the more we get into the depth of the sciences, and the trained doctors, they're also channeling, they're also doing other things, to get it right. But back then I was like, okay, let's look into applied science, and let's look into medicine. Let's find the question in the medicine. So, oh, well, the body mind question, ancient, old, chewed gum. But I need a question for my thesis proposal. And I was hitting the core of 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 what's going on right now in the world by chance. Okay, that was pre-COVID, pre-military, whatnot, pre anything. And so I think about this conversation where somebody from the applied sciences tells me, listen, Shirley, I read Feyerabend, I don't know how to treat a patient. We take down the giant worldview into the praxis, and that gives us a remediation of the giant philosophical question: how to treat a patient. What is the body mind? What is the connection between spirit and matter? What is the this? What is the, well, is the patient sitting in front of you? You better damn well respect their autonomy. Praxis, simple. Okay? We're going to have that discussion. It's going to be a blessed discussion, because Pluto in Aquarius asks the big questions. This is the time where we go into the philosophy of scientific revolutions. It's like you're in one, back to the ground, back to the small details, back to the applied science. Okay, let's talk about your giant physics theory. Now you have to build a bridge. What theory do you use? Do you use quantum right now, or or is the physics that you've learned in high school enough? Okay, so that is how we use a theory, and in what context. That's going to be very, very good. It's going to be very good for the full moon. If I ask myself, I could write a thesis about and research and peer review and Q1 and Q10 and whatnot, and then I deal with situation where I have mental crisis. Praxis, what helps? Oh, I saw women coming out of sex trafficking, growing plants, and it works for them. Let's try to grow plants. Oh my God, I have something that I cannot describe in a peer-reviewed article of me growing with the soil, me feeling this, like something, energy happening, my nervous system balancing, like what is going on? So this is praxis. Whereas I go to a psychologist, I don't know, I think psychologist is not the clinical psychologist, I guess it wasn't the title, but psychologist, and like he's treating the relational trauma and stuff like that, and he steals my dildo to get at my sexual energy to hurt me and do ritual abuse. Okay, practically that didn't work. Praxis, okay? For the other hand, I could think about me writing my thesis,
about the body, mind, and the importance of this and that and that, and going to my family doctor, and I have fatigue, and she's like, well, probably you're going through something, so perhaps you're tired because you're mentally exhausted. And I'm like, no, I need to see the food or what the vitamins, the this, the that. I was like, maybe I'm also like genuinely depleted and exhausted. Okay, so praxis, and that is where that lunation is very assisting in remediating the giant conflict between uh, um, the big scientific questions, the big plutocratic questions. If on a social level, I can think about, Netherlands, okay? So think about, 2030, 2030, and see chart of fruit, and I'm like, well, he's the expandable children as well, and they're trying to take him down as well. So yeah, he's a gender contributor to the West, but they see him as just another head to take off. Okay? Praxis. When I was housed in Netherlands, it's not housed, it was shelter. It was because of a pandemic that had the GGD, the health municipality, municipality shelter. And the company that tried to help me with representation, it was trying to get hard drugs to be legalized in Netherlands, and it may have been originated from initiation of Supreme Court judge and maybe or maybe not mol ex Joris Demming and his beloved voucher that went into prison for him, not as a sacrifice, allegedly Hussein Baby Sin. And then there's a handsome man that lost his passport. Okay, so this is where there's giant ideas, and then there is the praxis. Okay, practically, those are the people that were providing for me when I came to Netherlands with nothing, needing help because I escaped the violence. Those were also the people that allegedly were recording snuff films with and torturing people, turning them into MK Ultra spies, because they had to do it for the cult. And they couldn't opt out because they maybe were born into that cult. And Hans Amendment tried to opt out, lost his Dutch passport, and still dealing with things, saved the woman that he was forcibly wed to, but then called her a whore because she doesn't have sex with him after being electrocuted, raped, tortured. And him being raped and castrated. Had his sperm stolen from him and then castrated. Okay, so this is where we're gonna find out more information. Yes, there can be a lot of humor and satire. It's still the Jupiter Mercury. We're in the thrones of Jupiter and Mercury, so some sort of comic relief. And it's and what I like about this lunation, it is benefic. What I don't like, okay, what the moon is getting support from basically Chiron and Aries again. Okay, it does square Neptune, and thus it sort of a kind of applies to square Rahu, but not so. Which means it's a full disclosure, but we still have a giant fog. Okay, it's like, hey, we've come into full circle. What do you see in the picture? A giant fog. Congratulations, you accurately described quantum. You remember that Feynman saying about like if you get quantum theory, then you don't get quantum theory. So if you don't get it, you get it. This is what we have with this lunation. And wave particle is such a good example for Neptune Pisces and Moon Gemini, because Gemini is like the particles of things. And Neptune is a wave function. It's not a function, but it's waves, right? The ocean, it's waves. So we're going to have a little bit of a Schrodinger cat, and we're going to have to understand that this is the answer. Okay, 42. So all in all, this full moon has a vibe to it, and it happens on December 15. Now it's a packed month. When is Mercury turning direct? When does it do that? So at this, okay, at the full moon, if the fog was not foggy enough, Mercury is turning direct, but Jupiter is still retrograde. Okay, so what do I say when a planet is going direct, ruled by a planet that is retrograde? Full gas in neutral. So you're driving full gas in neutral into the fog, and then you're like, oh, I missed it. Well, you missed running full speed into the fog. It's nothing bad happened. All in all, I kind of like the vibe of this lunation. Hopefully, I won't be disappointed because Moon Neptune can give like a devaluation, disappointment, letdown, loss. Okay, but other than that, this moon has a vibe. So Neptune going direct. December 8th, Neptune is going direct. And it does so when Venus is right conjuncting Pluto at 0 degree Aquarius upon her ingress. It does so sextiling, of course, Uranus and Venus and Pluto. Now, what does it mean for Neptune to go direct? Anybody that has been trying to snatch anybody's dreams? Okay. The dream state. Neptune retrograde is us re-evaluating the dream state. It's us looking at the dream, looking at what was I channeling, looking at, oh, is this drug helpful or not? Looking at, it can be withdrawal from a certain addiction. I guess it's not really working that way for some psychologists, but prayers. It is reevaluating loss, understanding loss. Okay, there are different notions of loss. Losing something can be because you haven't experienced it, and losing something can be because you have experienced it and you lost. Neptune can be re-examining euphoria and dissociation. Looking at the waves, waves dynamics for those who study that. The fluid, understanding fluid, understanding ocean dynamics, water dynamics on a holistic scale. And so the direct motion is going to take that wave. If you think about it, it's not a tsunami, but we definitely have regressed from the shore and we're definitely coming back. We might flood a city. So when I think about Neptune retrograde, this is where, if Neptune is liquid assets, then Neptune is where we do not liquidify our assets just yet. Neptune direct has way more of a liquidifying facet to it. Both the direct and retrograde motion can denote a loss, but also a gain. It's the bottle that's popping out of the ocean. Neptune retrograde is very much the bottle that's popping out of the ocean. For example, Neptune ingressed into Pisces. Today, when I looked at the license of the psychologist, okay, that tries to still sexually assault me, could you let that dildo go, Itamar? Thank you. Um, Energy. He got his license in 2012. Neptune direct. I don't know how that license was acquired and whose energy somebody was siphoning with which cult, but you might lose your license. Okay? It's going to bring the Neptune karma. Now we have still time because we're going to go all into 2025. Neptune ingresses to 2025, I think even 2026, before we have the Neptune Saturn, the complete karma. But this is definitely cold cases. It's funny because I tend to cold cases like this, cold cases like that, and today I had a not cold case of a missing person, calling to remote viewers. So, like, I wasn't expecting this, right? And I may have developed a new technique, okay, because it's not exactly horary astrology, it's something a bit different, but it may be very reminding of that. And horary astrology does not work with outer planets, so I may have developed actually a new approach astrologically, and innovated around something that's based on ancient methods and the Greek theory of Nicola Stojanovic, to create something that may have actually merit. So Neptune direct might be me establishing or realizing, hey, does that work? Do I need to still refine that? And if that works, live to locate actually missing people and understand why they went missing. What does it relate to? If it's like a drug related, if it's medicine related, are they escaping, assassination, or what's going on? And also when it comes to cold cases, okay, so that can be one of the things. Okay, with Neptune, you may have been, if you've been working on a movie, so this is the final cut, this is the editing, or there might be the premiere, okay, because it's a movie launching, whether it's the music industry, launching an album, launching a movie, more so movie than an album, poetry book. So if you've been working on these things, especially if you've been working since 2012, you might begin to have the final cut, the final this, the final that. The direct motion is in a bisextile, very protected, not hampered by anything, conjoining Venus that is in Aquarius. So you're gonna have, my God, this is so good, because Venus in Aquarius is both something that is Venusian, okay, that is artistic, expressive, but also can be fiscal, or cars. By the way, shout out to Astro Victor. I've been seeing flying cars agenda in China. So that thing is very likely happening. And I know he spoke about that. I don't remember in where and in what context. But the thing is that you're going to be having the innovation of the hidden sciences and the very visible sciences. And you're going to have the practical skills and even the design that you need to present things. For me, that would be so good, because I have just been recording in a way that is, very dry, very You just see footage. It's not so interactive for people who have like listening like challenges to they need this flashy screen or something like that. um, it's kind of old school of the old schools, but maybe that's a trend. Okay, with Aquarius, maybe it will be like somebody's sapiosexual kink that is respectful. Sapiosexual kink is very Venus Pluto in Aquarius. Um, and Uranus Taurus. So I love this direct motion. It's still in a hard aspect with Rahu. Okay, it's getting dangerously close to Rahu, and the Mars is retrograde. So that tells me that upon this ingress, we will be revisiting that ingress point when Mars is direct. Okay, because Mars is ruling Rahu, which is conjuncting with Neptune. So what it tells me is that there can still be some sort of like a conflict. If, for example, when I address cold cases as an exo-cult, there's so many things that I can speak about that nobody within the cult can speak about. Okay? Royal bloodlines, okay? 357, drug cartels. Who is Martine? Everybody remembers who is Martine if you're watching Water Expands Upon Cooling. Where's my Water Expands Upon Cooling viewers? Shout out in the comments or something. All the intelligence watching. Drop a smiley. Then people with the VPN, it doesn't actually protect you. Okay? So it's not like there isn't some sort of a creative conflict. But hey, when that Mars is opposing Pluto, it's in the thrones of a planet to trine Neptune. So storytelling can come out of it, or movies can come out of it, or something creative can come out of it. I would not silence. I would not silence people when Mars is in Leo. Okay? Remember the Me Too. Remember the Me Too. It was with Rahu in Leo. So now it's Mars. And Mars is big drama. And taking action on that big drama. And Venus is with Pluto in Aquarius. She's going to have this detached outlook on things. So, especially to do with the psychology, neural networks, epistemics. Like you don't get if you're the type of people that have been relying on making women look stupid. Okay. Okay. I'm not saying that but the people that have been, whether it's a woman, by the way, or a man, it's like the people that have been relying on making women look stupid when it comes to the sciences, the hidden sciences, especially if you've been reliant on making women look crazy. Okay? That's, if you're still relying on making women look crazy when Uranus is in beta per se, I question your sanity. Okay? But I do think you need to have housing first, independently of ability to work. And I believe you that your reputation was hurt here. when you try to make people look crazy, your reputation is suffering. Scientifically so. Okay? So that's what we have with this Neptune going direct. Very protected, not very demure. I know Venus Pluto is a hard aspect, but again, when people have like, when people argue with each other and they can even bicker at each other, but then they have a mutual enemy. So think about a woman and some even secret society person. Think about the WHO person that has had it with the WHO, with all their dumbfuckery and all their assets that are not really liquidating, that are not really yielding, and a woman that has had it with all the dumbfuckery that this medicine is doing to women. Okay, so that would be like, well, science knows more about your womb, and then there's this Mars folks, this Mars person trying to make them both look stupid. Okay? The union. The union. So that's exactly what we're dealing with right now. Now, the moon is applying to conjoin Saturn and is in a very harsh condition. And Mercury is suicidal, opposing Jupiter. So some kill themselves. Nitrogen is insuffice. It's good old carbon monoxide, not hydrogen cyanide. Okay? And so you want to make sure that the union here with Venus Pluto is not that, woman psychiatrist and the it's not a plutocrat because it's and the secret occult person, okay? Because then it's where it can go malefic, and then it's where this Mars trining Mercury kind of can jab at them. You understand what I mean? It just happened. Okay? So again, Pluto has a natural, authentic quality to it. It's either you have to stand in your power or you have to stop abusing power. People, it's like either you like stop abusing your power if you're abusing your power, but also stand in your power. Okay? And you to each person it's different. You can also have various situations that are context dependent. I remember when I approached my Pluto square, there was a person that I didn't know their age, and I was continuously having this weird conversation. It was like about the validation of people who were sexually assaulted, and how important that is, and that, and that, and that. And then I was like, wait a second, that person could have been my little brother. I'm 40, why do I like, hey, hold that, we can have a professional conversation on this, but we don't have to keep coming to that topic, because that kind of seems weird, where they're going to grow and I'm in my Pluto square now. So yes, there is the little me, but there's like a Pluto square person now. It's like, oh my God, I have actually, like, it's a different power situation. I'm not the helpless victim in face of this person who could be my little brother. Okay, so it was not, God forbid, harassing me or anything like that. But it was like, oh, wait, hey, okay. It's a different, like, it's a different perception, different level. So you might have a eureka with this sextile to Uranus. It's like, oh my God, I actually have a power. Okay. And if you went over the edge, you can correct that. And it would be a good idea to correct that. Okay. On the other hand, if you haven't been standing in your power, then that could be the kind of place where none of you've been fully standing in your power. Then comes this opposition to both of you, and you're like the union. Okay. So, but you want to be cautious of also not being power exploitative with that union. Okay. And that is a tender situation upon this change of perspective. And there's going to be a Mercury person that is quite suicidal. Okay. So we want to, and it's trining Mars, but it's not sextiling Pluto Venus. And so, yes, we want to give reverence to that. So, yeah. But because of the reception of Jupiter and Mercury, we might have two people that are a bit suicidal. So this is giving me two. This is giving me two. Okay? Because this is potent. This is, okay, it has way more lethality than I considered, because this can be a situation where two people are feeling suicidal from this situation. Okay? And that was giving me to thinking about the violator exposed. So they usually re-victimizing themselves when they are offending. Okay? So they become naturally suicide and see themselves as the victim. And it is because they're basically, it's like a flashback of the state that they were a victim. And I'm not saying it's projection, it's like a flashback. It's not even projection, it's like a flashback. They have to deal with that flashback. So they are genuinely victim in the situation, but they're not the victim of the person that they were perpetrator of. Unfortunately, if I go back to my psychologist, then in those situations, the psychologist feels, now I recall that, okay, the psychologist feels like they are the victim. Oh, damn. Yeah, it's one of those classic situations. And because of the reception, it can be that both people are a bit considering suicide. So, not nitrogen, not hydrogen cyanide. Don't jump off a building, don't jump off a train. It's not the way to get executed. Wow. Yeah. Neptune Rahu. If somebody does off themselves, they might genuinely be going to a better place. Because Neptune Rahu is one of those places. Because Neptune transits, Neptune associated with passing away, has a good connotation usually. Okay, it's lost for us in the physical, but it's ruling near that experience. Okay, it's that euphoric place. I'm not saying it's euphoric death, but
And unfortunately, there is, although Mars is separate in aspect, but it's still probable that somebody might try to take action on their thoughts here. So, wow. This would be like, if Itamar is hearing this, this would be a very good time right now to stop any sort of ritual abuse to anyone. It's the only way to survive this. Okay, I'm not trying to get anybody killed, but hey, I'm not trying to get killed either. Okay? Lot of fortune on Procyon, sweetening the verdict. And I genuinely don't try to get anybody in jail or locked out. Like, it's not the mood. I just try to be. And this is so important because anybody that's in a situation where you know you are doing rituals, you know you are, that's not the road to go. You know you are abusing your power. Um, like you feel the victim here because you have flashbacks of situations where you were a victim, but not because you are the victim in this situation. Okay, if you are the person who had the authority and so on, and it doesn't mean that you're not in a catch 22 here, but definitely, like your, if it's your patient or your student, no, they don't victimize you. Okay, but you can't keep, like, you can't be attacking them. You can't, like, this is where the actions of attacking must stop, because that will lead you to kill yourself. That will lead you to take action and to kill yourself, because you're bringing yourself to a break point. For the other person, is no way for me to do other thing than me. Okay, I can't be dealing with sexual assaults all day, not in energy either. Hidden, not hidden. I can't, like, I can't be like, and you know, if there was a way, approachable way for me, like, to death with dignity, I would go and do that. You already know that. No, jumping off a building is not death with dignity. Okay, I've been studying suicide for decades before I got to therapy with you. If there was accessible way for me for death with dignity, I would have. So you understand that all of my actions stem from that point, dealing with your assaults. Then you are bringing yourself to a breaking point where you would take your life here. If you go against me stubbornly, you're basically going against the wind, going against the water, going against the disintegrated soul that composted. You're not going to get anywhere. You're only going to break yourself down to the point that you will take your life, because you also have more chemical access with the medical Itamar than me to actually take your life. You have more, you're chemically privileged in that sense, not in other senses. Okay, you're not even working against me. If I had access to that with dignity, more often than not, we would not be talking right now.
and because of your actions. If that makes you feel powerful, go ahead. So that's the story in my situation. Different people have various different situations here. Mercury direct. Oh, we talked about this. Sun ingresses to Capricorn, December 21. Chiron direct is another interesting thing that happens this month. We have another lunation. So we have 3 lunations this month. Very busy December. Okay. Very busy December. 3 lunations is packed with stuff. Planets going direct, Mars going retrograde. And now we're talking about Chiron going direct in 19 degrees Aries. Where are my Jupiters? Anybody having anything 19 degrees Aries, Chiron is going to go direct on that point. It is already on that degree for a while. So we are really getting to we're really getting to that degree. And Chiron Aries is Chiron Aries. It's doing what it's doing. Wounds around identity, wounds around sovereignty. I'm definitely dealing with that. But so is my psychologist, okay? It is ruled by Mars. Mars is trining Neptune and Rahu. This is the last of the good news I have to say about the situation for Mars. Okay? But Rahu is sextiling Pluto. So let's take it from that point. Yes, Mars is exactly 1 degree away from directly opposing Pluto. When Chiron turns direct, okay? Somebody rediscovers their identity, solves a wound around their identity, while some fated action, the fact that the action is fated is remediating the opposition. I don't know what it means. It doesn't mean something that's so, it's not a good or bad thing. It's just like there's a direct confrontation. It will help you to know that this is a fated situation. If I go back to my situation, it's the housing situation, there's that dildo situation. Okay? And those are situations in life, because if you would go by psychology alone, and there's a lot of merit to psychology, but if you go by psychology alone, you would say, why is this happening to me? Everybody right now is saying that. And you're correct. Okay? Even if you're my enemy, you are correct. Everybody's wondering, why is this happening to me? Okay? So the astrologer's question is, it's a fated conflict. The sky is set out for you to deal with that fated conflict. You just have to pull it through. And not only that it's a fated conflict, the outcome of this conflict is fated. Okay? Sun is in Capricorn, not doing very much. Mars is not supported by the Sun. The Sun is doomy and gloomy. She's not in detriment, but she's kind of like, in Capricorn. She's kind of like, sitting on the top of a mountain. It's like, Mars is like a soldier asking, where is the king? Where is the king? It's like they're sitting on the top of a mountain meditating about the doom and gloom of their life. So they're not even like feasting or anything like that. You can't complain about them not being there, but they're not there. So upon Chiron, and this Chiron is ruled by Mars, so it's not like, yeah, that's this Mars and Pluto, they've been doing their thing, will happen until April. Is, oh shit, that is ruled by this Mars and Pluto. Okay, so if you have a wound right now, whether it's about your sovereignty, about your identity, your ability to do things by yourself, okay, this is fated conflict, fated depletion, okay? It's fated, it's harsh conflict. There's a wound about, and there is perhaps a situation of a lovability within that wound. It's kind of like radically accepting yourself. That's the situation. That's the thing. That's what's happening. Okay. Mars is trining this Rahu. Pluto is trining this Rahu. This Rahu is conjoining Neptune. Now you're going to pop the question, is somebody going to be off? Well, I don't see 11th degree, I don't see 18th degree, I don't see 22 degree. Somebody might just naturally pass away. Cardiac arrest. Where is Butterfly Empress? It's not Butterfly Empress. I saw someone, I don't remember her name, that she was talking about death. And she's saying a person being burned to death, cardiac arrest. A person drowning, cardiac arrest. That was not Butterfly Empress. Don't make it on her. It was not her doing that. Okay, so somebody just have a natural cause of death of cardiac arrest. It's very likely to do with the conflict. Somebody might be getting a heart attack. The good thing, it might happen in their sleep. Not saying anybody's gonna die, but you just have to surrender the result of this conflict, and that can be curation to your Chiron wound, to your sovereignty, to your identity, to your ability to do things by yourself, to your ability to shine. I don't know, a light on whatnot. So. And the excellent, not so excellent news is that Mars will continue to perfect its opposition in the coming days. Okay? So I tell you, someone might cross over. And Saturn will not be approaching my ascendant until like later this year, okay? With somebody's Saturn return. No, before that, a little bit before that, 4 degrees before that. So if I'm dead, it might mean that that's their Saturn return because they're a mediation. It's like, oh, finally, that person is off the planet. Oh, damn, they were sweetening the verdict. Why did I tell you, naval people, don't curse, it backfires. Okay. Anyway, naval, it sounds like an indigenous tribe. Naval people. Anyway, so the Navajo people have been cannibalizing on their enemy. Who is their enemy? Entire humanity. Um, that means we're reaching we're reaching the end of December, and this is 31 December, and this is Mars is still not perfected in opposition to Pluto. So we already have bad news. We're not done with that. We're gonna have to wait till January. Mars is sitting pretty on that. Mars is thinking is not a good thing to say. Not with the opposition to Pluto. Because Mars sticking with the opposition to Pluto might end up with Mars hanged from the Mars. Astrology is good, this episode. And now we have another lunation, 9 degrees Capricorn. New moon. That is, of course, ruled by Saturn, which is in Pisces. And how can we not have a new moon with Saturn in a T square? The final, the final note of December is, hey, we haven't perfected that Mars Pluto yet, but we have a new moon. Oh, great, a new beginning, a new conflict. So we have a new conflict that's going to be expanding because Saturn is in Jupiter's sign. It may be some small conflict because Jupiter is in a Mercury sign, but it's actually big. The big things get small, the small things get big. Okay? And so you want to think about those situations where your big worries become smaller, but your small worries become bigger. May have to do with taxes, may have to do with debt, may have to do with lack or constraint on something medical or drug. Hopefully not like a situation of refugee or homelessness. But you want to think about what are your small worries right now, what are your big worries. Okay? Because at the end of December, we're going to have a situation where your small worries become big and your big worries become small. Now, what is Capricorn? Okay? Now, I have it on the housing and public image axis. So, wunderbar. With Jupiter, the things that become big, the small things that become big, have to do with the fourth house. And so, this is, this is another thing, another reminder for all of us to, I cannot say keep things in perspective because there's nothing more extreme and going to extremes than Mars opposite Pluto, but Mars in Leo, okay? The big showy Mars. But this is exactly what we need to do, okay? So, because for all people involved, by the end of December, what are the small worries right now can become quite big, and what you're so worried about right now can become smaller. Sometimes it's by the merit of something. For example, before 7th October began, I bought myself a pair of shoes, sandals. It was the Birkenstock, and I finally tried the Birkenstock. And then I was buying that, and I knew I will not have money for like food for the rest of the month, but I was investing in my feet and so on. And then I come back home, and there is a war. So my small worries became big, and my big worries became small. Okay? It's given that. I'm not saying a war, but definitely, but definitely something of that sort, and it has to do with reputation, debt, social status. I'm sorry, debt. Unfortunately, parents can also be um, medical situation, medical bill, hopefully not due to an accident, but with marsupials included, that can be. So, reminder, all the people that are busy like assaulting and like, okay, like, just remember, by the end of December, what you're so worried about, all of us, what we're so worried about right now becomes a small worry. If I think about like my housing or this or that and that, and there could be like, I don't know, evacuation from and I have to say, this Itamar person has been trying to manifest that, but I know that they're using them to manifest like the stuff with 7 October and stuff. But it can be that he also has inside information. It's like there's going to be evacuation, there's going to be evacuation, there's going to be evacuation. So it's like he tries to capitalize that for other things, but it's like the information itself can be true. So I'm not saying, okay, it's going to be one thing or another, but there can be like, you're so, or this Itamar is so worried about me, so worried about me, so worried about me, so worried about me. Then, I don't know, something happens in the family, and it's like, oh, why the fuck was I investing so much time in this one patient that doesn't even have that much exposure to her YouTube or Facebook, okay? And trying to assault her and to take what hers and to this and to that, and, over nothing, and getting proportion. So we are going to begin getting different proportions to things. Or if I've been dealing with like a housing situation and this and that and that and that and that, then the big worry can become small, and it can be in a situation where like, well, the entire place is evacuated. Okay? Entire place lasered, hopefully not. Laser Brussels. I'm not saying laser like a particular person. I'm talking about the caves. Like, get to the caves, get the children out of the caves, and the rusty old bomb. Okay? So, but this is definitely a situation where the small thing now become big. Or it can be like, I'm so worried about renewing my Dutch passport. I'm so worried, it's like there's invasion to Netherlands and completely no passports, and like people can't come in and out for like a year. I'm not saying it would be. Okay? Oh my God, this Jupiter is in the 12th house for Netherlands, the 18th. With 12th house, 6th house situation. I don't know. Oh, Mercury is in 18 degrees. Oh, some military operation with a P. Can occur. It's just a lunation. It's not an eclipse or anything like that. But yeah, it can be like a start of a pandemic. With Rahu Neptune. Like, my God, where was my mind? I was just thinking about people crossing over to a better world, and it's like the dreams. There's like global pandemic. Where was I? What was I thinking? Rahu in the military operation, Neptune in the end of Pisces. They have to start something big and viral. Some small toxins. Okay. Now, that's very likely to happen either with the Neptune Rahu conjunction or with the Neptune Rahu conjunction. Saturn Neptune, I mean, of course, but before that, the Neptune Rahu conjunction is giving pandemic globally. Something even to do with pollution of the water. So this is, it can also be like that weird situation of like, I'm digging my half moons, I dig in my half moons, I'm digging my half moons, and blah, 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 blah. And it's kind of like, oh, what about this, or what about that, or what about that? It was like water. Itama, think about the water. Don't be so busy raping people. We need to care for fresh water. Okay? But it can also, because of this situation, your big worries might become small. You think about the food. So, hey, there's a global pandemic right now. Oh, good. Somebody's more busy taking care of the water than trying to assault me. Hallelujah. Finally, they're too dry to try. I'm also dying, but hey, I might be crossing over to a better place or something. Okay? But this is Rahu Neptune. It can be with Saturn. Venus squares Uranus. Venus is not too far from Deneb Algedi. Women psychiatry, women neurology, women neurodivergent women, women housing women, women and women relations, women industrial society women. Women, you got the point? And the lunation is sextile in Saturn. Okay, which is so much, it's giving like, what would be the karma for this situation? Rape does not bring the water. Rape does not bring the what did I say about rape and famine? Now is not the time to say you're a woman, you don't know shit. When the water depletes and that vagina dries, power to the people. This is also for all these people that have been doing lover boy. That's depletion of that's famine. Those that have been exploiting love relations. Okay. Your small problem's gonna get big, your big problem's gonna get small all the same. Because when you need that glass of water, when you need that shelter, and you ain't got the money, and none of you has got the water, you don't want to be in a situation where she runs away from your cup of water because she is afraid you're going to exploit her again. She prefers death. or he, okay? It's not the time to exploit people that are refugees, people in need. This is the water, folks. When people are looking for water, you won't be having the anything, okay? Think about, how do we get fresh water? The conjoint activity that we all have to come together to distill the water. Who gets access to the water? Trying to control the water is not supported. Pluto is an air sign. But unfortunately, Mars is going to try to create warfare situation, or not, with the water, or perhaps that warfare situation is actually remediating the opposition. It's like, two people busy with sexual conflicts and rape conflicts, and that conflict is like water. If she is all tied up because she's afraid of you, ain't no water gonna come. Very simply put, holistically speaking, ain't no water gonna come from the situation. Now what you gonna do? It's not about her yielding to you. She has a vagina, and that vagina is not wet and is not wet. It's not about something that she can do. It's not about programming that you can do. You're gonna be discovering willing consent that way, and how important it is to both your life. Both of you will be discovering. Okay, also the women that think that they can yield to that, and if these waters, if the water can't be poisoned. That's the water. Violation of willing consent poisons the water. Very simply put. It also may think about, it's like you're not respecting somebody's sexual boundaries, then they become like toxic towards you, and then you feel toxic. Okay, and it's like, it's their behavior. Well, did you respect their bodily autonomy? So that information, when we hear that now, we can reassess things. Like, that would be tremendous time to stop ritual abuse. Like, you think you packed up with water, you this, you that, your place evacuated. Now you ain't got the water. You better start acting good now, okay? Because the water's not gonna come, very simply put, and if they will be poisoned. A woman can't give you the water when she's violated and abused, also hidden, also in energy. And that literally means water. As a woman who's bringing the fresh water, I can tell you what I know about the waters, and that is situation where this Mars opposing Pluto, I think, will be remediated by the warfare about water, the water depletion, water going missing, water going poisoned. And now people have to remediate that because they can't be arguing about rape anymore. Like, there's no time for that. Soil is genuinely going dry. This is given polluted water. This is given pandemic. This is given water restrictions. Um, and now, when we talk about water restrictions, you want to think, be very cautious of, like, if we begin to charge for water, you know what I mean. Oh my God. Venus is in equity here. I want to take you back to when I was in a shelter in Netherlands. The women, it was a first hostel, and then we were separated. We were anyway separated, but it's different also settings. And then the women went to a Transformatorweg, which was used to be a jail. They would sit in the separate rooms, separate for each woman. The men would sleep all on the floor, and they all snored. Okay, I really don't know how they got along that way. And the issue was that the structure that was juvenile jail that was transformed into shelter, and the structure, just for the architecture, okay, there were only so much cells, and they gave the cells to the women because they couldn't mix together. And so they preferred the women over the men, and then the men were in really bad situation. This is giving that, okay, with Venus Aquarius, and Venus Deneb Algedy. It's like, hey, we only have so much fresh water. Let's give it to the women first. Okay? So, again, the more we can not take that Mars Pluto to rapey situations, assaulting situations, even in energy, the better. Because at the end of the day, the women are going to be getting the fresh water first. And it's at odds with the revolution, because the women are trying to revolve something. For example, if I think about this as a woman, then I'm trying to create equity, I'm trying to create balance, I'm trying to create a situation where it's like the women respected and the men respected. And then there is this situation where it's like, who's going to drink first, you or your rapist? I was like, of course me, fuck that. Okay, and this is the square for the revolution that I'm trying to create. And that money time was like, hey, you raping me? No, I take this water, I drink this water. Okay. For the other thing is that's like, hey, let's share the water. But if you're sexually assaulting a woman, she's not going to be sharing the waters with you. You understand why, right? And I'm talking about something that can actually be an actual, real, to the point situation. When I said 9/11 on human trade is 9/11, people thinking I'm joking. I'm not. What was the pandemic was terrible. Military operation, okay? If not for the GGD, whatever, I would not be having shelter in Netherlands with degrees over 0. And I was escaping a violence. Okay? This is what I mean. And I did not enjoy the pandemic, okay? It was giving North Korea everywhere. Where's Peter? Oh, assassinated. Damn. I didn't even get to hear that when he was alive, because I was in a different place. And then, like, it's difficult for me to see the footages of when a person was alive sometimes because it's energy. And so, but yeah. And I think that knowing that that stuff is coming, knowing that it's about the water, it's about poisoning the water, it can be pandemic, it's global, it's something with the ocean water, it is about something going missing, okay, that we need, and knowing that Venus is going to be with Deneb Algedy, and Mars that rules Rahu is going to be with opposing Pluto, okay, which is a very violent situation, but also sexually violent situation. So knowing all of that together, can we tone down like the sexual rapey stuff? Also hidden, also in energy, also the ritual stuff, because that damn fuckery not gonna go. What's the savior of the day? Oh, it's a global pandemic with the fresh water. We only give water to the women. We only give shelter to the women. And then your giant feminist that wants to say, men and women, we equal with this, with that, with that. If you're rapist, you're gonna run away to the shelter and you're gonna drink that water. Wow. And it is that. It is that. Saturn is giving refugees. New beginning can make people refugees. The small problems getting big, the big problems getting small. The small war is getting big, the big war is getting small. Is giving just those situations. Neptune, Rahu, warfare to do with pandemic, poisoning the waters. I wouldn't try to force myself on a woman today. Okay, let's just very simply put. Or on a man. Okay. But here particularly, I have to be honest, okay, Venus, the Nebalgidi is giving women. It's not necessarily giving like men who escape sexual violence, which also happens. But here is, maybe if so, because the violence happened because they were seen as the feminine, then that can work somehow in favor of them. But this is giving women. Okay, so I'm not saying that this is fair, but relative to the situation of like a woman being raped, that can be. But if it's like a young boy or something like this, the women, the children, that can be the situation. More challenging when it's two men, adults, and sexually violent situation. This is going to be challenging, and what can be remediating is that pandemic poisons warfare situation can take the conflict out of in between them, but to conflict with the world, okay, conflict with finances, okay. So that, or let's destroy humanity together. I mean, I don't know. But that is of what I see at the end of December. Happy New Year. Now let's go. Okay, let's see if there's more things to talk about. Well, it's packed, 3 lunations and the new moon in Capricorn, is not for the faint of heart. Jupiter squares Saturn's on Jesus' birthday, a day before that, right? Jupiter-Saturn square. What is Jupiter-Saturn square? Jupiter is optimism, Saturn is restriction. And that's when Mercury is suicidal. And it's in a T-square. But because of the reception, okay, we talked about that. It's just like that's, that's the T-square, okay? That's the T-square that Saturn is squaring Jupiter. So, but in that essence, there can be also restriction on the ability to commit any little act. There can be restriction on the ability to take action on suicidal thoughts, very simply put. Those who need death with dignity, this is not giving good news. There's going to be restriction. Mars does trine Rahu, so there is some fated action. But on suicide, there's restriction here. Or it can be gloomy thoughts that manifest a certain action. So it can be one or the other. And let's say if we talk about the good election to attempt, I wouldn't consider that one good, okay? Because it means that you have thoughts, but that restriction caused the thoughts to be more intense. While the action can be successful, there can be, the Saturn can operate as literally restriction on your attempt. So I would be extremely cautious with that, especially if you want to do that to regain sovereignty. Okay, I don't like seeing that at all. You know, I'm a great advocate for that with dignity, but and the situation here, both would be like the Jupiter and the Mercury would both be considering that, and also the Saturn here. But it's not a good election for attempt, even if that would be taking your sovereignty. Yeah, I know, I'm very optimistic today. You want to especially beware of situations where you divert Mars energy to oppose Pluto because you cannot take your life. And I mean that in the sense that try to go, no, but Mars is ruling Rahu's fated action. It does sextile Ketu. So Mars is trining Rahu and sextiling Ketu. But the opposing Pluto, it sort of still trines Neptune, but not really. This is a bit. It's not. I wouldn't say lethal, but it's definitely not giving. And the Sun is in conjuncting that Mars. This is one of the most, you know. Let's say this is not the Christmas that I would just, enjoy sitting with the family. If you're going to see Christmas films, very cautious. There can be like what happened with Ajax in Amsterdam. Okay? Be very cautious. If you're going to an event, like to see a film, demonstration, if you're going there, then you know naturally, but you need to be cautious. Vacation, okay? If you're going like on a retreat, where there are going to be like crowds, Pluto is crowds, masses, and Mars, Leo, Sol Capricorn, Saturn Pisces, you might be seeing a historical movie, or a movie that is annual. Okay, those shows that are annual, like every Christmas. Be very cautious about that. You know who you are. Okay.
in energy or not. Be cautious whether you are the actor or actresses, okay? Or you're just going to the show. Um, please make sure that you take precaution. There's going to be something, okay? And it's fated. They have been, oh God. Oh God. I don't like to be the bearer of this news. They have been planning for at least 3 years a bombing at the Christmas event in Netherlands. That Royce movie, they have been planning to do something like that. I don't know if a bombing or some violent event. I had for at least 3 years. When I was homeless in Netherlands, was like Christmas, 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 the freeze, Christmas, Christmas, the freeze. Okay, and of course they tried to put me there, but they tried to put me in Nova. They tried to put me in Ajax. Like, but something is planned. So, oh God, stomach. So, but whether you are like the people that star in the film or something like that, I suspect that this is one event that we'll see. Probably more events, but I suspect that this is one thing that we'll see. And just take precautions. I don't have chart for like anybody of the family. Um, but also if you're just going there. Now, I don't see it. It's given suicide bomb. It can be like an unsuccessful suicide, but it's like a big attempt. Because Mercury here is suicidal and Mars taking action. And it's something the moon is decreasing. Just okay, so the completion of something, and Ketu is in Libra. Okay, so it's completion of something that has been planned at least 9 years ago, which is given a whole other timeline. Peter's assassination for me. I saw degree safe is safe is safe is coming for me, is coming for the family. Oh God. Again, the event is planned for at least 9 years. What's going to be taking place? Okay, they plan to put me in the Nova, they plan to put me in Ajax. None of that happens. So I'll just say be cautious, take extra precaution. This is where I would not, I know in such places, or where if you're not in Israel, if you're like in Europe, okay, for people there's like not that movie. Um, if you're like anywhere in the world, then be more aware at this time that such things can happen. I'm not saying they're going to happen for sure. Maybe the fact that I'm pointing this out is kind of like, oh well, let's change the plan. I don't know, because it kind of ruins that, which is great for me, right? But the thing is that you want to be super, super cautious. Um, okay, Neptune is something double, so they can be like a double. It's not an assassination attempt. It's something like a suicide bomber. But I don't see the 22 degree. Okay, there's nothing on the 22nd degree. So either it's not going to be successful, or there's restriction, or they can try something and it is avoided. Like even me giving that reading, not a good election for trying to murder people. It's not going to be successful. First of all, I'm less worried, but and I've been planning that for 9 years. So
But still, somebody could cross over. Degree 3 is degree, for these satanic cults, the devils that they use that. Um, just be cautious, okay? Oh God. Can. I think I have to warn somebody. I think I have to warn somebody. Again, I don't think it's going to be successful. I don't think there's too much to fear, but it's definitely going to be presence of intelligence, and they're definitely, or somebody is intelligence. I don't know if you're planning a stunt for 9 years, then I'm just worried, but I don't know. It doesn't look successful. It's what I say. It's not giving mass death. It's not giving successful suicide attempt. It's not giving even poisoning. It can be like, failed army. Because we have the doubling, okay, double agent, double this, the two, okay, but in some action taken. But again, I don't necessarily see, but with Neptune rouse, somebody could be crossing over. So if you're planning a stunt with like shooting and stuff, somebody could be crossing over, and you have to surrender it because that would not necessarily be intentional. It's kind of weird. I don't know, this chart is weird. It's just no. No, not I'm drinking. Thank you. In another glass. Thank you. Um what it's giving like some sort of. Okay, one last thing that I want to do with you is the money flying out of the pocket. Okay, so again, this is a month where small war is going to get big, big war is going to get small. I don't think there's going to be like a successful assassination attempt or successful bomb or anything like that on that date, so I don't think I have to like warn anybody. And money flying out of the pocket. Let's begin. So I'll be looking at Uranus aspects, but before that, let's look at Mercury aspects. One thing we're going to be having Mercury opposing Jupiter December 4, which is very big on the spending. Thinking about, hey, big spender, that is Mercury Jupiter. Jupiter big, Mercury money chin hands. So this is manifesting time for money changing hands. You might close deals. Beware of the opposition, okay? Because the opposition, you don't want to get situations of a double-edged sword. You might be too optimistic, but money will be changing hands. So prepare the wallets, okay? And we will be having this again in December 27. So plan ahead. Okay, December 4, December 27, big expenses, but it can be something that you want, okay? It can be something that you really want. You have a reasoning for spending, for making that, although you could be too optimistic. That's something, if you're doing business or something like that, you could be too optimistic. Venus conjuncting Pluto can be a strong depletion. So that can literally like running out of your, all your clothes are dirty and wet and you're just waiting for clothes, okay? That's Venus. Um, Hopefully in a cozy place and not assassinated or anything like that. But that can be um, money, like your wallet, your credit being completely empty, your bank account completely empty. Okay, that can be a point of complete and total death and rebirth for something Venus.
But Victor,
And this is happening in Aquarius. No, thank you.
stellen.
Okay. Thank you, Mama.
Victor?
No, no. I love you. I don't know. I'm recording. Oh, okay. So the country is being bombarded. That's happening on a daily basis for a year now. Um, the usual Israeli, what will the Gazans say, right? So Venus conjoining Pluto in Aquarius, that can be a complete and total depletion, death, and rebirth when it comes to possessions. So you might be completely transforming, regenerating what you're spending on something to do with astrology, science, space endeavors. Um, mm, 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 mm. Yes, Aquarian things. The big old new technology, the old new design. Think about the old design of typing machine. No, typing machine is more mercurial. I think about more a computer with this one, or something that has like think about an artifact that has value, that is like an attempt of making a flying air balloon with a car. Okay, I don't know, and you purchase that failed attempt artifact. um the sphere houses, like something like that, and that completely depletes your resources and rejuvenates. So don't worry about the wealth, whether it's your clothes, whether it's your voice, even whether it's your relationships, whether it's money flying out of the pocket. Don't worry. You might be completely depleted. You might have no credit at this point. Don't worry. Things will change. It is the transformation, the complete death and rebirth, the depletion that happens before the new birth of Venus. And the new birth of Venus Pluto cycle is going to be in Aquarius, where your values are transforming, and now it's more important to spend on ideological projects, creative projects, something you identify with ideologically. Your values become more ideological. They become more of like a global, and you're gonna be putting your money where your mind is. So that the Venus-Mars opposition. So December 12th, we have a Venus-Mars opposition. The thing is not the Venus-Mars opposition to me as much as the fact that she's still exiting Pluto. Venus-Mars opposition can actually be, oh, I saw this beautiful dress that I like, but I need to pay the rent. Okay? Or I saw this beautiful estate that I like, but I need to have, I don't know, my installments for university, or my new science project funded as well. So that can be a conflict between those. It can be money flying out of the pocket because Mars is making a decision. You're gonna make a decision one way or another, but that can also mean you make a decision, a fiscal decision, that is against your values or that is against your money. Okay. It's a manifesting aspect. It's like wallet is going to be used today. And this is December 12th. you may or may not regret this thing because Mars is opposing Pluto. Basically, the action is opposing your values. Okay, but you would need to take action. So if you can avoid spending, but I have to admit, a manifesting aspect is a manifesting that you will spend money in a way that is opposing of your values. So just something weird that happens right now at that point in time. Venus squaring Uranus, or you might just pay taxes, I don't know. December 28th, Venus squares Uranus. This is the time of the season where money flying out of the pocket big time. You know, you just have to get that space shaped dress, and you know it doesn't even fit, and it won't fit, and you're going to think, what the fuck was I thinking the day after? But you do it anyway. And my advice to you, do it anyway. Okay, don't try to avoid the square. It's a manifesting aspect. Let that be. Better buy that dress than that guy. Okay, because Venus is also relationships. But you know what? It's very likely that you're gonna buy that dress and date that guy, and on both levels you're gonna say, well, that was very weird. I don't know what was I thinking. But if you look up closely, it's the liberation factor that is needed there. And with Venus in Aquarius, close to Deneb Algedy, it's, you know, if you've been the type of person that's not been spending money on clothes, so now it's like you have a new date that you're so excited about, and you buy this new dress or you buy this new makeup, and that's just your karma. It's time for you to put money in textile or something like that. Then you forget about the guy and you don't even like the dress, but it's like, hey, wasn't that a good idea to buy myself something and to pamper myself? Because Deneb Algedy is kind of like a mini Libra in that sense. Deneb Algedy is like, hey, we are redistributing our wealth. So that is going to be a crisis of wealth redistribution. And it can very likely have to do with this weird affair or something like that. If you're a man, you might be spending on an accidental lover. Okay, where is erotic intelligence? Okay, so remember the erotic intelligence. Uranus is not monogamous. It's not non-monogamous, and it's not monogamous. Uranus is just about liberating your energy, and that's what it cares about. If there's a creative project that you need to do, you might be spending money on that. Okay, I've talked about painting and Aquarius, so you might have encounters that are completely running havoc on your committed relationship, but they are coming to liberate you from some stagnant patterns that you might have been oppressing yourselves, and that's the thing. And money is involved here. Okay, with Venus, money flying out of the pocket, and because of Deneb Algedy vicinity, I say, not only is it like, don't try to resist that, but also because it's going to backfire with Uranus. Okay, let Uranus do what Uranus came here to do. Okay, and I'm not saying that Uranus as a person. It's not about a rapey situation. Yes, unfortunately, there can be some cases associated with Uranus with that. I'm talking more about like bombarded affair and so on. But the thing is, when it comes to money, because of Deneb Algedy, this is an additional factor, that it's wealth redistribution. And Deneb Algedy, it can be the one that steals from the rich to give to the poor, or it can be the one that guards your property. It depends on really the wealth redistribution. Okay, who has been on the receiving end? If I go back to the water situation, the water depletion, it's probably going to be the women that didn't have access to water that suddenly will have access to water. Okay. And so here, on a more lighter note, you know, it's probably the people that didn't spend money on something that now you're going to be spending on money on something. It's not just unexpected by the merit of Uranus, but it's also it's unexpected, but it's also, hey, I really wasn't allocating my money there. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be even lighthearted. Uranus is yes, it's 2 degrees from Beta Persei, but it's still okay. Um, and just like don't try, and it's going to be big. Okay, Uranus is an outer planet. Don't expect that to be a small expense. So make sure you understand that. And it's going to be visible. Don't expect to hide that. Okay. For those of you, if it's like a sudden affair or something like that, the best is to be downright and open from the get-go, because like, hey, that happened, rather than to try to hide that. This is where Uranus, especially when it is in cahoots with Pluto, they're gonna like okay. So and money is going to be involved. Okay, so that is um, it's down to the get-go. Prepare your wallets and your hearts. Remember my Uranus teaching and divorce, Uranus and affairs, okay? Kundalini energy. There's something creative about your path you need to be doing. If you're not doing that, that can ruin your marriage. That's it. Um, More money flying out of the pocket. No, I think that's pretty much it. Those are the days with Venus. It's the end. It's December 28th. Might be buying Christmas gifts to a sudden lover. So I think this is it. Um, Pretty good coverage we got of December, more so than I expected. We have started on a Saturn hour, and that Saturn has been doing its thing. It's been meticulous. So I definitely did from start to finish. It's almost 3 hours now. And thanks for all the viewers. And solar hour. Should I wait for the solar hour? It's only 3 minutes. Let's talk about currency. Anybody knows what are we gonna do like with the end of the world? I don't know. I really don't know. They're having world wars over it. I think about those weird situations where you're turning against something, turning against something, turning against something, and then it's like after the Second World War, women could open a bank account. I have no idea, you know? I really don't know. This month has surprised me. Now, it has the note of Saturn opening, so probably I'm a bit more gloomy than I should be. Um, yeah. Oh, and Mercury is still on 22nd degree as we speak. December. Last month of the year.
I think we're going for the soul hour. Last month of the year. And thank you for that 22 degrees Pisces. I really needed another murder signification today.
I don't think we have any new cold cases.
And it's still Mars hour.
But the thing is that the month ends. Like anybody's been scheduling, just to gather up with the family, no COVID. I don't know, getting gezellig is not gonna be the mood. It's not good. Because it's involving sun and Mars in the sun sign. People be arguing with their daddies. Brothers will be arguing. Hopefully, not like Royal Army recruitment, which already has been going on. Not me listening to Reinhard Meisch, nein, meine Söhne geb ich nicht while watching novel all the time. And I know Trudy Verstegen is like worse. Respect to Lars. Um, I'm such a sweetheart, I know. Anyway, this month is oh my god, no, don't do that. This month is very weird ending to the year, I have to say. It is not a calm Christmas. It is not a happy new year, okay? Let's just put it out there. The entrance to 2025 is like, and it's not because there is a world war, this is like astrologically speaking, okay? Because even within war there are ceasefires, there are this, that is it's not getting ceasefire. Um, and I think that those that have been like expecting for that time of the year, let's talk about like Easter or April. I think that would be April, May. We will be releasing stuff. I can hear the mind of Lada Duncheva going like, you didn't actually say that. Oh my god. The laughter is given. There's a round of assassination going on. By the way, did you notice, like, in the last year we had Nasrallah oft, Sinwar oft, um, what else did we have? Half of the year, a part of the year of Donald Trump oft. Diddy almost oft. Beyonce. completely assassinated. They're big in Japan. It's so completely unexpected. I remember when I was given that reading, for that chart, and I ain't seen nothing. Meanwhile, Jag. I may have said it's true they're gonna get to Jay Z, Jay Z, Jay Z, and then did it. And she talked about MK Ultra as well. It's not just this opaque, these electrodes to people with the Cold War, raping people, torturing people, mind control, that. And the fact that MK Ultra is literally having everything. You want to go to a manicure for Christmas, okay? Everybody changed because of COVID and the Great Resignation. So you guys like you're like you're doing your nails is like all cold symbolism, and it's kind of like the thing is everybody gets to experience being a celebrity. We have, with fake accounts, sex bots trying to off our accounts, people being canceled. You go to a manicure, it's the butterfly of the cold, or it's another symbol of the cold. You go to try on makeup, and you also are visible because you have to, in every business you have to be visible. You have to be a movie star, whether you are a lawyer or an actor. Okay, sometimes they're both, but but that's the truth of the matter. Um, and like suddenly a makeup artist starts to sexually harass you because they're being programmed and there's a glitch in the matrix now. You go to buy food, you don't know if there are no humans in the meat with no meat. BPP gets no. What really did they cancer cells? Where are you doing the World War? Worried about meeting your parents, worried about meeting your spouse parents, worried about meeting your spouse parents. There's a flu and a pandemic and nobody can see anybody. We had that in COVID, right? What will be of my reputation? What will be of my reputation? What will be of my reputation? It's like water, water. Kim Jong-un declared war on USA. I don't know for how many times, because that's the time I seen. Everybody fights with everybody. So unexpectedly. Oh, we forgot to take a photo of the event. It's nothing. The CIA has everything. Who is Martin again? And with that, I'll release. No, I have to see. I have to see the chart. Yes, releasing.